Let's move to the discussion points for today. So let's start with a reflection that I love too much, right? So the elements that drive modern chemistry, carbon, oxygen, iron, and beyond, were forged in the course of the stars and dispersed across the universe by supernova, right? So the original autonomous lab is the universe itself. So this origin story is a reminder of both the scale and complexity of the chemical space we seek to understand. So we know traditional R&D methods explore it at our pace, maybe slowly, but well, one experiment at a time. Now, with recent advances in digital tools, or that also allow some not so new, but for now real exploded tools like AI or machine learning, right? So autonomous labs offer a new approach, faster, broader, more intelligent. So by automating workflows using AI to guide exploration, these platforms dramatically increase the speed, precision, and scale of chemical discovery. So today we began with by examining the scientific pressures driving change in chemical R&D. That is why autonomous labs are emerging as a strategic response to those challenges. Which are these challenges, in fact? Next, we will explore how autonomous labs are unlocking new regions of the periodic table, enabling the discovery of novel chemistries and advanced materials. We will then look at real-world examples, so highlighting case studies where autonomous platforms are already delivering measurable impact across discovery domains. And following that, we will discuss how organizations are building R&D roadmaps and redesigning value chains to integrate autonomous capabilities at scale. Let's see, full autonomy is not something that any organization will achieve in just a couple of years. Is a transformation path that would require a good design and ground design also from the digital tools beyond the lab capabilities. So we will try to get closer to you what could be that phase approach that you can take based on your own ambitions and your own journey. So finally, we will open the floor to a live Q&A session, so an opportunity to address technical or strategic questions with my colleagues and other experts from Everest Group here in the session or after this conversation in order to get you on board with all your questions. So going to the next slide, let me begin with the start of reality, right? So despite decades of technological progress, most scientific experiments today are still manual, sequential, error-prone. Worst, up to 70% of published experiments cannot be reproduced, completely reproduced. So this is wasting resource, delaying progress, a lot of back and forth to really optimize what we can do and get closer to reproduce the experiments. At the same time, the stakes have never been higher. So addressing climate change, for instance, or improving public health, developing new materials require the ability to explore millions of chemical permutation, not just dozens, based on these new challenges that humanity needs to face. So this is not entirely possible with legacy R&D models. And this is the tipping point. So A labs, with that we had the chance today to work with them. A labs combine robotic platforms, cloud architecture, AI-driven decision-making to a single loop. So this would enable experiments to run 24/7, adapt in real time, and scale discoveries across domains. So several institutions, governmental institutions like the US DOE, larger pharmaceutical organizations, chemical organizations, large cosmetics organizations are already using these systems or part of these systems to accelerate their pipelines. And this acceleration, let's say, is not 10%, it's factor of 100%. So it's not acceleration per se, it's a kind of transformation. Let's move to the next page and see, let's just bring this closer to home. So we are interested to know why are you here? When you hear about autonomous labs, for instance, are you thinking about accelerate discovery timelines? Are you more to improve reproducibility, data quality, explore new chemicals? Are you thinking about how you can reduce your cost per experiments? If you are not currently exploring A labs, maybe you just are quite skeptic and want to know what is there. If you have any other reasons, please just let us know. That could be very important for us to really understand what we are on that. Okay, so interesting. So really interesting results. Definitely accelerate discoveries is one of the main goals of this autonomous lab. And yeah, it's totally normal that you are not currently exploring A labs because, well, it's something new and because it's not so easy to get from one day to another. So let's continue with this conversation. Let's have this visualize this answer also for you and see how this autonomous science fits in your strategy and where you it could take you next, right? So let's move to the next slide. And sharpen the lens, right? So we talk about the urgency. The urgency behind chemical discovery is not academic, so it's really existential. So, for example, to meet net zero targets by 2050, the world must mobilize up to 200 trillion in green infrastructure. So, and let's say that we have the money, but the bottleneck is not funding, it's formulation itself. So what you are actually your answer, right? So accelerate discovery, accelerate the whole process. We think about a greener future with the new battery chemistry, but more than 70% of these chemistries are technically super promising, but fail to scale due to slow discovery cycles or limited experimental bandwidth. In healthcare, for instance, well, we know about antimicrobial resistance and how millions of lives this takes annually. However, well, 9 out of 10 drug candidates fail in clinical trials, often because we cannot explore chemical permutations fast enough to identify viable leads across the board, and the spending is soaring. So with over 2 billion needed to bring one single new compound to the market. So, and still reproducibility continues to fall. And it's like it seems to be normal, right? So we all say, well, of course the attrition rate for the pharma, it's just, but okay, it's what happened. But now let's say we are not in a condition anymore to just accept it. And the solution could be here with the use of these autonomous platforms to get at least more additional combinations and new ways to face discovery. So let's move to the next slide to see how actually does an autonomous lab actually works, right? So broadly speaking, of course, but as of course, an A lab is not just an automated bench, so it is beyond automation capabilities, so autonomy is beyond. It's intelligent, closed loop ecosystems. It begins with AI-driven orchestrations or algorithms that predict high-value experiments, prioritize them, and adapt based on real-time results. It's not just scheduling, it's like scientific reasoning, but at machine scale. Next, robotic systems execute these experiments. Of course, some will know that PPT hidden help in synthesizing, often conducting, but the thing is the scale is that robotics or robotic arms have already used it in many labs, but the scale here could dramatically change, right? So this could conduct 500, 1,000 reactions daily with zero fatigue or human variability. Crucially, every outcome flows into a cloud native data architecture. Very important how to manage data. in this lab. So linking results to enterprise systems, let's say electronic laboratory notebooks, LIMS, analytics engines, making findings immediately trustable and reusable. Perhaps most overlooked enablers talent as well. So one of the questions we asked in advance were about the how important are the talent capabilities, right? So A labs require a new generation of hybrid scientists, so professionals who can navigate chemistry, robotics, and machine learning fluently. Of course, the combinations. It's not like everyone will have everything, but they should speak a similar language here based on these new features that these labs could have. So let's move to the next slide to see about how these A labs are moving from concept to critical capability. I will just spend a few seconds here because we have an additional section which explain more in depth each of these examples, but let's just mention some of these, right? So this is happening. So there are governmental organizations, research labs, notable academic institutions, startups. Actually, the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, the Berkeley Labs, coined the term A labs, right? Because they call A labs to the first autonomous lab they prepare with these results that they have with the 41 new materials, just 17 days. It was at that moment this a very outstanding results for that. So let's move to the next slide and see more additional things that we should mention about this. So it's not just only about faster. We mentioned that it's not just about acceleration. So it's more about how smarter they are, more scalable. So they reproduce experimental error to automation. They explore multidimensional chemical spaces no human intuition could. They adapt continuously, so improving predictions as they operate, and they provide end-to-end traceability, satisfying the strictest regulatory standards. More importantly, working in that way, the risk and the investments. So by surfacing insights earlier, filtering low probability paths, optimizing across multiple objectives, cost, toxicity, performance, they turn experimentation into a strategy. One thing that we heard sometimes from um, pharmaceutical companies, chemical companies for the labs. Sometimes there is, okay, well, we want to provide some additional digitization strategies for our labs, but then it means that we need to reduce R&D investments. So there is always a kind of balance on that. But actually, investing in this kind of labs could also help you to the risk and the investment globally. So think about it, and of course, make your decisions for your own journey with this. Let's move to the next slide. So we have seen the case of the urgency. We can see the technology that answer it. Now we moved into the next chapter is how labs unlock novel chemistries and how organizations are building these systems at the scale. From here, I will take the word to my colleague, Amit, to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Cece. Now we have established the scientific tipping point and the urgency for transforming chemical research. Let's explore what transformation actually looks like in action. In this segment, we will take you through how autonomous labs are enabling us to unlock entirely new frontiers in the chemical discoveries. We will look at how these labs make novel chemistry accessible, where the most impactful breakthroughs are occurring, and how measurable gains in speed, scale, and precision are reshaping the innovation pipeline. Moving to the next slide. Okay, let's begin with the idea of unlocking the periodic table. This is not about discovering new elements, but it is about assessing previously unreachable chemical space. Novel chemistries refer to the new molecular structure, unexplored reaction pathways, and material combination that conventional approaches either overlook or take years to validate. A labs bring this within reach by leveraging predictive AI to propose synthesis routes, executing thousands of experiments in real time, and integrating with digital tools like density functional theory and material informatics. These capabilities enable researchers to rapidly explore multi-component systems. Think of application in coatings, battery materials, and drug delivery, where properties emerge from complex interactions. So it's not just acceleration, it's amplification of what we can discover and how we can discover it. Moving to the next slide. Okay, before we deep dive further, let's hear perspective based on what you have heard so far. Where do you think A labs will add the most value first? It's reaction optimization, material formation screening, process development and scale up, mechanistic studies in pathway discoveries, or any others. We will take a moment here to capture your input, and it is always helpful to see where the committee sees immediate traction. Thank you for sharing your responses. Based on the results, your responses, so how broad the opportunity space really is. Now let's unpack what we mean when we say novel chemistries. Moving to the next slide. Novel chemistries fall into four main categories. The first is the new molecular structure and functional materials. These include small molecules or polymers that doesn't exist in current databases, or materials engineered with specific properties like thermal stability and biodegradability. These are the building blocks for the next generation products across pharma, electronics, and smart packaging. Second, we have unexplored reaction pathways and catalytic mechanisms. This is where A Labs shines, using AI to identify low yield or multi-step reaction, optimize them, and sometimes propose entirely new catalytic routes that minimize the use of rare or hazardous reagents. Third, we look at the multi-component formulations and system-level chemistries. These involve the interplay of many ingredients to produce emergent behavior properties like conductivity, adhesion, and thermal responsible that are impossible to optimize manually. And finally, we have sustainable or bio-derived alternatives that includes green solvents, biodegradable polymers, and low energy routes that align with ESG goals and circular economy frameworks. Together, these four domains represent a fundamental expansion of what's chemically is achievable. Moving to the next slide. So where we are seeing these innovation in action. A labs are enabling real progress in four particularly high impact domains. In catalysis and reaction engineering, they are helping design new oxygen evolution catalysts, efficient CO2 reduction pathways, and selective hydrogenation methods with lower metal loading. In battery and energy storage, we are seeing accelerated discovery of solid and hybrid electrolytes, alternative anodes and cathodes, and safer and high voltage chemistries, all critical for next generation devices. On the polymer side, A labs are enabling the design of sequence-defined polymers, recyclable thermoplastics, and smart materials like self-healing or thermoresponsive systems. And finally, in green chemistry, we are witnessing a rapid development of non-toxic solvent alternatives, enzyme-compatible systems, or low-waste synthesis route. The common thread here is speed, scale, and precision. A labs are expanding what's possible in both performance and sustainability. Moving to the next slide. Let's take a closer look at the inner workings of A labs. Four capabilities drive their unique performance. First is the closed loop learning, where AI models analyze the outcome of every experiment and refine the next one in real time. This dramatically cuts down the wasted effort and helps the system adapt dynamically to new data or failed runs. Second is the high throughput automation. Robotic platforms execute hundreds to thousands of experiments per day, changing variables like solvent, temperature, or catalyst within precision and or reproducibility. Third is the predictive AI for synthesis planning. A labs use advanced algorithms to draw a form of data sets, literature, and retrosynthesis tools to propose reaction routes with a high likelihood of success. This avoids trial and error and direct attention to high value targets. And finally, A labs integrate with digital chemistry platforms like DFT, cheminformatics, and data ontologists. These systems enrich prediction and allow autonomous labs to operate as intelligent decision making platforms, not just fast experimental engines. Moving to the next slide. Now let's talk about the outcomes. The performance improvements enabled by A labs are dramatic. Time to discovery has been reduced from 3 to 5 years to just a few weeks in some cases. And this is not theoretical. It has been demonstrated in areas like advanced catalysts and solid state electrolytes. Experiment throughput has increased from 20 to 50 experiments per day using manual workflows to over 5 to 1,000 per day using automated systems. And perhaps most impressively, the design space coverage has grown from screening dozens or hundreds of candidates to exploring millions using AI models to prioritize and down select to top 1,000 or 2,000 high potential compounds for real world validation. These capabilities allow for faster IP generation, reduce R&D risk, and greater confidence in commercial scale success. This is what real acceleration looks like, not just doing things faster, but enabling discoveries that simply were not feasible before. Moving to the next slide. Now I will allow Sanchari to take forward from here.
Thank you, Amit. Hi, everyone. My name is Sanchari. So in the next section, we will walk through some of the several high impact examples and case studies of automated labs. We will look into the developers, we will look into the objectives, outcomes, and some tangible business impact of some of the most interesting cases. And we'll close each with a forward looking insight as well. So if we could move on to the next slide, maybe to sure. Okay, so looking into some of these examples, the A Lab, which has been developed by the Lawrence Berkeley National University, has been to accelerate the discovery of inorganic materials for clean energy applications. The lab integrates artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotic synthesis and characterization platforms into a fully autonomous closed loop system. In fact, in a single 17-day run, the A Lab was able to synthesize nearly 41 inorganic materials out of 58 AI suggested candidates, which is a remarkable hit rate of nearly 70%, far exceeding traditional chemistry methods. Now, operating 24/7, the platform also processed nearly 200 samples per day across 33 chemical elements and 41 structural prototypes. That's really great, right? The materials were targeted for applications such as superconductors, photocatalysts, and battery components. Now, the platform was designed to address the slow and manual nature of traditional materials discovery, which could take months or years in a single new compound. And the A Lab's success has triggered increased public sector investment as well in autonomous infrastructure. For example, the US Department of Energy's funding for platform scalability. Now, the next question can be, what can be the future plans of such a platform, right? So the future plans could potentially include scaling up the platform's capabilities. And how would they do that? They would do it via national lab consortia, and they would be applying it to sustainability focused materials like carbon capture catalyst or next generation semiconductors. Now, if we could look into another interesting example in this slide as well, the Swiss CAT Plus lab at the ETH Zurich is a robotic chemistry lab which is focused on discovering carbon dioxide to methanol catalyst using high throughput automation. Now, this interesting platform has been developed by the research team led by Professor Javier Ramirez, and the facility combines robotic reactors, automated analysis, and AI planning. So the platform has actually invented and evaluated in just 6 weeks around 150 new catalyst formulations, which is an unprecedented pace in heterogeneous catalysis. Now, the goal here was to reduce the carbon intensity of methanol production, which, of course, as we all know, is a high volume industrial chemical, by replacing the traditional fossil derived hydrogenation methods. Now, traditional catalyst discovery is limited by human throughput and time intensive testing, but SwissCat Plus actually optimized this process via easing out the autonomous loops. And of course, this allowed them to pinpoint candidates with much superior selectivity and yield even under mild reaction conditions. The lab would now aim to potentially expand the platform scope to carbon dioxide electroreduction, ammonia synthesis, and even plastic upcycling catalyst using similar AI-driven frameworks and workflows. Now, if we could look into some other interesting examples in the next slide, maybe, great. We could look into the Genome platform. So Genome platform is an AI platform which has been created by the Google DeepMind. Now that uses graph neural networks, and it explores and predicts crystal structures, primarily inorganic crystal structures. Now the system has been trained on known material databases like Materials Project, and it has generated over 2.2 million hypothetical crystal structures, of which nearly 380,000 have been predicted to be stable. Now, the platform would bridge theory and experimentation by offering chemically plausible, low energy configurations for researchers to test. Now, they're already in collaboration with experimental labs. Over 700 of the predicted crystals which have been synthesized. So this absolutely validates the platform's predictive power. Now, what would the platform do in the future? So DeepMind plans to integrate the genome platform into active learning pipelines with autonomous labs to drive a closed loop discovering system, which would effectively create a digital materials engine. So a very interesting platform for sure. And if we could very briefly, cover another example, maybe the example from the University of Liverpool, which has been discovered by Professor Andrew Cooper. It's called the Mobile Robotic Chemist, and it is a self-navigating AI integrated robotic platform for materials discovery. Now, what this system does is it integrates LiDAR-based navigation. It has robotic arm manipulation and machine learning for experimental planning to allow a full lab autonomy. Now, over the 8-day campaign that has been conducted by the university, it executed nearly 688 autonomous experiments, working nearly 21 hours per day without any human intervention to optimize photocatalyst for hydrogen evolution. And it has also successfully discovered a new photocatalyst formulation that has been 6 times more active than the baseline. So it has demonstrated efficiency, it has demonstrated effectiveness of the autonomous hypothesis generation. Now, unlike conventional static lab robots, this mobile chemist could travel between instruments, it can fetch reagents, it can set up reactions. So the proposition of this platform is actually endless. Future, what can be the future of this platform? So again, it would include scaling the mobile robotic approach into multi-lab collaborative environments, and it would these type of environments would be where fleets of autonomic agents would work in tandem across sites, and of course they would solve high value chemical challenges. Yeah, if we could move to the next slide, maybe we could look into how the laboratory automation market is growing. Yes, it is definitely growing, and it is fueled by artificial intelligence, it is fueled by robotics, and the demand for reproducible high throughput R&D. Now, what about the investment? Yes, the investment confidence towards laboratory automation is definitely strong, because companies like XLP or In Silico Medicine or Lila Sciences, they have received some good amount of investments, and these AI native platforms are actually also building fully digital discovering pipelines actually, and this showcases a lot of investor appetite, which of course signals belief in scalable ROI through accelerated innovation cycles. Now, public sector support in this area is also rising, where institutions like the University of Toronto's Acceleration Consortium, they have received nearly $200 million to expand the autonomous discovery capabilities. And even some of the labs, like we've discussed earlier, like Berkeley, are also pioneering some robotic experimentation systems in this. Now, another question can be, where is the patent activity going? So there's a sharp increase in AI-enabled robotics-driven R&D patent filings from 2020 to current 2025 scenario, which has indicated rapid technology transfer from research to commercialization. So it definitely reflects a shift towards data-centric experimentation and IP-rich innovation profiles. Now, what is the conclusion to all of these slides that we've discussed so far? So the main highlight here is act early and scale smart. So companies that invest early in autonomous R&D will own their future innovation cycles. Now, that is not just in science, but in IP and also supply chain control. The ability to rapidly discover and scale materials will obviously define winners across sectors. So now is the time to pilot, partner, and build. For the next slide, or for the next section, I would request Cecilia or Amit to proceed with the next sections. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanchari. Well, we have seen what is possible with these examples. Also, we have seen who is doing it. And now we turn inward, right? So what does this mean for your organization? How do you begin to implement how to go ahead with the autonomy? So let's now enter more on the strategic to go ahead with this. Thank you. Moving to the next slide.
Okay, we will wait for the responses.
Yes, so what is the biggest barrier to implementing autonomous labs in your organization? Please share with us your responses.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, this, some kind of this. So the lack of internal capabilities, especially if you are not yet, I mean, most of the organizations today are still in digital islands, right? So you advance in get some digitization tools, but then they usually are interconnected. So interoperability across different digital efforts across the organization. It was manufacturing, it was R&D, every kind of lab. Sometimes face the challenge of interoperability, and then triggers more question about, well, how to build the digital foundation before. On the other side, well, if the business case is not clear, of course, we cannot move to think about the last goal of digitization with this autonomy. There are more certainties that are needed for organizations. So happy to see these answers. I think, let's continue with this. Amit.
Yeah, moving to the next slide. Yeah, of course, unlocking the potential requires more than just installing automation tools. It requires strategic alignment and organizational readiness. There are four dimensions to consider. First, A Lab should be seen as a strategic enabler that accelerate innovation and reduce R&D risk and create tangible business value through increased discovery velocity and differentiation. Second, the success depends on organizational capability shift, cross-functional collaboration, digital fluency, and new models of human-AI interaction in science. These are cultural as much as technical. Third, adoption must follow a phased roadmap. Implementing A labs isn't about one-time event, it's a multi-step journey, starting with pilots, building confidence, expanding automation, and evolving toward end-to-end integration. And fourth, we need to rethink value chain design. Organization can choose to build, license, partner, or outsource their A-lab functions. Hybrid models, especially try before you buy pilots, are a great way to de-risk adoption and validate ROI. Moving to the next slide. One of the most important steps in realizing the full value of autonomous labs is the integration. Without integration, like A labs can turn into fragmented capabilities, unable to continue to data-driven R&D acceleration. To truly scale up impact, A labs must connect it to the organization data, IT, AI, and compliance ecosystems. This starts with data infrastructure. All experimental data, results, condition, metadata should flow from centralized data lakes. This enables AI model training, cross project learning, and enterprise-wide visibility. Next is the bi-directional integration with AI and ML systems. A labs shouldn't just follow AI guidance, they should continuously generate new data to improve these models in a closed learning loop. ELN and LMS connectivity is critical. Every step, material used, condition tested, outcome measured, must be logged automatically for traceability, regulatory compliance, and IP defense. Cloud native integration enables remote monitoring, orchestration, and scalability, especially important across global R&D teams. To make all this work, we need three enablers: unified ontologies so materials and reaction can tag consistently across systems; API-driven middleware to allow real-time communication between instruments, AI, and data systems. And the third, monitoring dashboards so scientists can oversee experiments, analyze outputs, and intervene when needed. In short, A Labs delivers their full potential when they are not just fast, but fully integrated into the digital core. That's when they evolve from enterprise scale discovery engines, no longer isolated system, but fully integrated accelerators of innovation. Over to you, Sissy.
Thank you, Amit. Let's move to the next slide to see, well, how could be the structured path that we recommend thinking about, well, all these needs that, of course, the first one could be to have a digital foundation, right? So what I mentioned about move from the digital island to a more integrated system that allow you to work more with these results. So in that case, if this is sorted out, every effort really on R&D or really on merging all discovery capabilities with your digital systems could lead to a success. So let's start with the digital foundation, establishing these electronic laboratory networks, structured metadata, instruments connectivity. Let's think about this like the digital rails above everything would be built. So partial automation. So we do not expect a complete automated plan from one day or another, or maybe we don't need it, right? So there are different kind of labs, different kind of ambitions for every organization. And sometimes the full autonomy is not, or the full automation is not necessarily the main goal, but still you need some partial automation, deploying robotics for high volume, hazardous tasks, liquid handling, formulation mixing, analytical testing. So whatever helped you to build the operational muscle, then move to different levels of autonomy. So introducing real-time AI planning, where algorithms select the next experiment and trigger robotic execution based on live data, and also provide the feedback from the system in that everything is immediately improved with the results from the early experiments. And finally, well, to guarantee some remote orchestration, right? So enable researchers to design, run, monitor experiments from anywhere. This is when your lab becomes a node in a global discovery network. This could be through digital twins. It could be different kind of virtual capabilities. But before to that, you need to be sure that you can do have these digital rails ready. Each phase would require typical roles, right? So let's call digital chemist to define hypotheses and ensure scientific fidelity, AI engineers to build models that prioritize, adapt, and learn, automation specialists that ensure mechanical uptime and execution precision, informatics leaders, of course, connect data flows into analytics and compliance, algorithm interpreters that translate model output into experimental feasibility. All this kind of talent must be attached to this. Let's explore in the next slide how to orchestrate these, or where to start, right? So something that definitely every organization needs to do to embed these capabilities in your organization is pilot wisely, right? So start with high impact, low complexity workflows, such as reaction optimization or high throughput screening. Define hard KPIs, key performance indicators like time per iteration, hit rate, cost per experiments, really hard KPIs that you feel, well, I really need to know if this is working. I really need to know if this is for me. Let's start with a small pilot. Let's start with this. Let's really measure what is happening here. So the metric fluency, continuously track throughput, reproducibility, data integrity. Let the metrics and not the ambition guide the scale-up decisions, right? So you can keep this in a manageable way in that you can really track what is happening. The cross-functional governance is also crucial because you will need from day one to align R&D, IT, AI specialists, operations, perhaps manufacturing. So to clarify who owns what, who defines the hypothesis, who validates the model, who maintains uptime. You will need cultural champions because, well, you need to have internal early adopters for this transformation. You need to identify and empower credible early adopters, credible internal teams that were able to run these pilots. So let them lead by example, not mandate, because this means also a huge transformation across the organizations. And I think one of the most important aspects here is always work in the human in the loop narrative, right? So frame A labs not like a replacement of the conventional labs with the I mean, the leaders or the stars of any labs are, of course, the scientists, right? So we cannot change that in a way that inappropriate way. So still, this could be a force multiplier. So this should free scientists from tedium to focus on really creative judgment and conceptual leads. So and also they could guide how you trust in this A lab, right? So that's the right framing, and the fluency and these human in the loop aspects are crucial for the next evolution to these scientific methods. Going to the next slide, we will see, well, of course, there are different operating models for implementing these that would not different from any operating model that you will use to adopt any other kind of technology. But, well, perhaps here it's important to just clarify a bit more how to scale, what to do with the resource or the innovation appetite. So it could be different for every organization if you will need to build in-house. To get full control of these internal capabilities, but of course would demand high investments and high operational investments as well. But, well, you are the proprietary of your technology. There are technologies that you should license, right? So ideal for mid-sized innovators seeking speed. There are different platforms that could offer these co-developed with partners, right? So in collaborative innovation with academic institutions, with these governmental labs, I think in the stage that this is moving, these kind of interactions are crucial for any organization to have a real good partnership with these laboratories to see how far you could be in your investigations and your capabilities. So this could yield greener routes, novel catalysts, share IP. There are, of course, spin-off startups that could be interesting to acquire or to collaborate with them, not in a way to outsource, is more than IP integration. And of course, rapid experimentation that, well, maybe you just would like to see, okay, how it works. Let's contract a labs as a service system. So that could provide remote access to thousands of daily experiments without owning the infrastructure, and just to test how this could really work, and if you really want to enter in this, and when to do that, and how to do that, and for what, right? So maybe there are some aspects in your research that could demand more capabilities like this, and other ones in that you can move still with some traditional methods. But still, in any case, I mean, this is the future. So at some moment, any lab would have some kind of levels of autonomy with this. So, well, where to start and for what, and with what, it could be crucial for your journey. So, of course, hybrid strategies for this, piloting via external labs, building some things in hubs. So the key is not just choosing one model, is maybe sequencing them strategically, depending on the targets. So it could depend on your timeline, capabilities, the innovation goals. So the direction, I think, is clear. We mentioned this is the future. It's just not what happens when, but the journey is always yours. So whatever the model, a labs must integrate with a broader digital ecosystem and need to prepare for that. Let's go to my colleague Sanchari to close with some notes and go to some questions.
Yes. So if we could go to the next slide. Okay. So the CHEM framework identified by Everest Group actually encapsulates 4 essential pillars for next generation scientific discovery in autonomous labs. So this would include closed loop discovery, high throughput experimentation, emerging chemistries, and modular infrastructure. Now, what is in it for you? Now, CHEM could empower you to cut R&D cost, it would reduce time to market, and it could unlock new IP opportunities by structurally embedding automation and intelligence into discovery workflows. So it would support enterprise-wide scalability, and which would also enable distributed teams to work seamlessly through modular and cloud accessible platforms. We would probably wrap up the presentation now, and we could go to the next slide to discuss some of the questions for a question and answer session. So maybe if we could quickly go through some of the questions.
No, I think it's fine to go with the with this slide.
Okay, sure. So could we have Tia take through the slide? Uh,
Okay, so every attendee here and all people that register with receive some complementary material that we prepare for you with additional examples, and also we share this deck as well, and you can request also a complimentary assessment with us. I mean, we there are many aspects that of course are deserve many hours of conversation just to talk about one digital tool, one type of lab. So everything kind of this. So you can ask for a complimentary assessment, so a meeting with us or any other of our experts to uh, give more insights about you. So we also have some questions that we received in advance. Maybe Sanjay, you can continue with that.
yes, Cecilia, thank you so much. So we have received some questions beforehand from some of you. So let me take one of the questions and then I can hand it over to Amit for the next set. So is your A lab compatible with flow chemistry? That's one of the questions that we received. So yes, autonomous labs are definitely highly compatible with flow chemistry because flow chemistry involves continuous controlled reactions in microreactors or flow systems, which naturally lend themselves to automation. A labs, of course, integrate robotic sensors and AIs, which are ideal for handling real-time data streams and precision control. That flow chemistry definitely requires. So yeah, many A labs that we know now include liquid handling robots or programmable pumps and online analytical tools, which are foundational to automated flow setup. So the answer is yes. Amit, you want to take the next question?
Yes, thanks, Anchari. So the next question we have is, can a similar approach be taken for EE labs, electronic engineering labs? So the answer is yes, a similar approach can be adapted for EE labs, although the implementation will require domain-specific modification. Key levels from EE labs such as AI orchestration, robotic automation, and cloud-based experiment management can be translated to EE lab context in three ways: test and measurement automation. Equipments like oscilloscopes, signal generators, and semiconductor analyzers can be integrated via APIs to support automated characterization. Second is design of experimentation. So it can be applied to analog and RF circuit design, materials testing that includes dielectric breakdown, and hardware in the loop validation. And the last, remote orchestration and scalability. Just like chemical labs, e-labs can benefit from remote monitoring, version control, and AI-assisted troubleshooting. The transition requires integration with EDA tools, CAD platforms, and compliance with industry protocols that includes AIEEE, IPC. Although the hardware is different, the foundational principle of the data-centric implementation, experimentation, and AI-guided discovery remains highly applicable.
Before the next question, I would like to request the audience, if you have any questions, you can please mention that to us on the chat, and we would be happy to address them through. Over to you, Cece.
Yes, of course. Even we can answer by email if you left your data. So some questions also were reminding the minimal or typical capital investment to transition from a traditional laboratory to an autonomous lab. I totally understand this question. Of course, it could be something that varies based on the implementation model or the current digital maturity. So what we, in these cases, advise first is to have a kind of diagnostics about what is your digital maturity level, considering from 1 to 5 scale, the mostly manual to full autonomy, and in between it could be the isolated the digital islands, the integrated but still not interoperability, more interoperability models, and finally, well, the automated and autonomy labs. So, well, based on that, also is easier to help you in this journey. The minimal viable investment typically starts with the digitization phase, including these LAM, LIM systems, cloud storage, metadata tagging, API compatible instruments. So this phase can be achieved with modest investment, particularly when focused on a single use case. If you select some pilot to start, also this could also de-risk your investments. The partial automation at robotic modules, of course, with this could range more in thousands and millions, depending on the scale and the equipment, and of course, full autonomy and remote orchestration involving the AI planning engines, cloud-based coordination, closed-loop automation may require investments in the order of a few millions, of course, for larger labs or multi-lab rollouts. But of course, there are lower capex models that live as a service or licensing, with were discussed, offering scalable entry points with minimal upfront investment. So beyond the complexity is a bit manageable in terms of the how to implement this, how to go ahead with the journey. Yeah, I think, well, we are just encourage the audience to send additional questions, to get in contact with us, to provide some additional information, share this deck, have some meeting with us. We also have this amazing tool that, well, deserves maybe another meeting to talk about. This is part of also of our AI systems that could help any organization to get more AI insights in the organization, talking about human in the loop. So this AI human tool to help you is we call Tashi, and we have available on the AST team to provide a demo for you. But well, so I really want to thank everyone to have been here. Invite you to see this deck and see and explore also related content and the next events that Everest Group will launch in very soon. So, well, thank you so much for your attendance and your participation here.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.